When people ask me why I like taking pictures of mushrooms, specifically in Muskoka, this is why. One of the things I love when shooting things like mushrooms is because they're so small. I mean, you know, this is how big this cluster is. You can do really interesting things with them with lighting, because the lighting that you need to use is very, very small. So I've got this dollar store flashlight, extremely small, very, very cheap, takes a couple batteries, and we are going to spruce up this mushroom photograph. Okay, so without the lighting, this is what we're looking at. Right now, this is itself a gorgeous photograph. I'm going to focus it back towards the front, and we'll take a shot here, say roughly right there. All right, let's get a shot here. Okay, so we got a shot there. And what we're going to do is take our flashlight, we're going to place it up here on this rock, turn it on, angle it so that it's shining down on the mushrooms, and we'll come back here and we will see that it's blown out now. So we're going to bring it back down, probably right about there. Now you can't see it in the camera here because it exposure compensates, but it's actually quite a dark image now. So we're going to take these series of shots, and you'll get to see what it's like just with the addition of this light and how dynamic, simple mushroom can become. So one of the most difficult things for me personally when I'm out hunting for mushrooms to photograph isn't necessarily that the photograph itself. The photograph is relatively easy. Looking for mushrooms can be a challenge, but sometimes you have this problem, which is you're out after heavy rainfall and you end up with literally thousands of mushrooms all over the hillside. And some here that are even hidden, like that one there is hidden underneath this pine needles. So trying to find the mushrooms that you want to take pictures of that will stand out and be the best can often be a challenge, because you're trying not to step on other ones, and there's sort of like a can't see the forest for the trees type thing. Here we are again. You can see this is the shot without. This is the closest focus point for this stack without any rim lighting on it. So exposure is quite slow. I think this is at f8, ISO 1000. So let's pop on the light now, which is over here. You can see, whoop, that was close. All right, so you can see here kind of what we're looking at for layout. I never really want the light to directly enter into the lens because I don't want any lens flares. And this lens is spectacular, but the lens flares in it tend to be just bright white hazes. So that's where we try and keep the light coming off the side of the camera. You never want it hitting in directly into the lens unless you have a lens that has really nice artistic lens flares, and then have at it. Now, you can see here that light shining across. It's just hitting the sides, casting a shadow on top that we can't see because we're shooting it from the bottom. And now we are overexposed, so we're gonna pop it back down. We want this one just starting to overexpose. So, could probably get away with that. That will probably sit right about here. We're shooting raw, so it's gonna be very forgiving. All right, let's take these pictures. And so, as we're talking about finding mushrooms to shoot, how they're kind of hiding everywhere, I saw this one earlier and I knew it was going to be fine. So when I'm taking all the rest of these ones that I really wanted to get out of the way before I did some experimenting, I covered it up with my hat, and it's actually an interesting little mushroom hiding down in here. So this is good. This is a very, very challenging shot. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be able to do it at all, but yeah, we're going to give it a shot. Also, one of the tricks I like to use when I'm shooting really small stuff, or stuff that I'm shooting macro, is to actually use the phone. Phone is an amazing tool for this because it allows you to get really close to something with trying to figure out exactly how you want to shoot it. Yeah, so sadly this is a case of just, it's in too strange of a spot. I can't get a really good angle on it. And the mushroom itself is actually kind of too big for this kind of photography, especially with the extension tubes on it. I prefer the manual focus lenses for focus stacking because I find the electronic focus rings just aren't precise enough unless you have an external controller for them. So we're going to pass on this mushroom and just observe it, enjoy observing it, and move on to the next. Probably the most difficult to try and light. Of course, it's not going to show very well in here, but because there's just nowhere on this hill to put the light, so I had to end up putting it down on my bag. So we're going to shoot this series of images and see what happens. I'm hoping it's not going to be too contrasty, because I don't have a modifier for this dollar store flashlight, so it's basically straight on, but we'll see. Maybe move it further away if we have to. Alright, so this is like mushroom photography 101. That's something I want to talk about later on, but I forgot to dress the scene. So as you can see, as I slowly work my way through to the back side of the shots, the focus shots, you can actually see this very distracting piece of, I think it's a pine needle sticking up out of the scene. So I'm going to have to go back and retake all these shots. And then, yeah, make sure I've dressed the scene properly so that the focus is mainly on the mushroom. Okay, so as I'm sitting here, it's just starting to rain. Hopefully it doesn't rain too much. I looked up, and if you can see that there, can you spot the mushroom in the picture? Give you a hint, it's right in the center. Let's go look. I looked up and I saw this gorgeous natural light catching this mushroom. So we're gonna see if we can't. Ooh, there's beautiful ones around here too. Look at the whimsy in that mushroom. All right, let's see what we can do. Okay, so it has started to rain, so we've got the umbrella. I got to get this shot. All right. Okay, so this is one of the rare opportunities where we get to take a picture of a very whimsical mushroom. It's got amazing character. It's being lit by a beautiful giant softbox in the sky with the rain clouds, and we're shooting it at an extreme under angle, which you generally don't get when you're shooting mushrooms. You're usually restricted to straight across if you're on the forest floor, maybe up slightly if they're on a log. But in this case, these mushrooms along this ridge here can be shot at an extreme up angle. It gives a really unique perspective. So I have to get this shot before the rain gets too bad. So this is one of those, this is what you would call a magical mushroom. It's not hallucinogenic, but it has an air of whimsy to it that you just don't find in a whole lot of mushrooms. The location is perfect up against this absolutely gorgeous moss-covered granite outcropping. And yeah, it's the kind of thing I'll absolutely love, dream of photographing, especially in this lighting. Looks like we got an ambulance somewhere. And we've got our mushroom we just photographed here, and I almost knocked it off the ledge, but if we move just down here, we have another little mushroom, which is amazing because the way the mushroom comes off the wall, amazing. Definitely worth photographing. This is one where I think this will benefit from some pretty intense light modification. So we'll see if we can just make this even a little bit more magical. All right, so that was actually probably one of the most challenging lighting shots I've done. I've got the flashlight being held up by this umbrella, and it's being modified by a leaf to block some of the light up to the moss, so that when you combine it all together, you get something that looks, let's turn this down, a little bit like that. Focus peaking is on, let's turn that off. All right, so focus peaking is off there. So you get something that looks like that. That's, right, you know, it's a decent shot. Some more extreme lighting. Very difficult to do when you're not out here with lots of light modifiers, but as long as you've got a flashlight, some leaves, and something to prop the light up, you can do something, you know, fairly decent. So let's see how this image stacks together and continue looking. All right, so another instance of walking along, just sort of, well, this is pretty steep along here. I'm walking along again, just keeping an eye on the ridge, contrasts, all that jazz, and I came across that one up there, once again, middle of the screen. Beautiful little mushroom. The cap itself is on a weird angle, so I don't know that this is going to be a spectacular shot, but in terms of a shot of the gills, underside of a mushroom, I think this should be a decent one. And I also think we're going to swap out to the super telephoto lens now. I don't think I'm going to be able to get this. It's pretty big with what I've got on there now. So let's haul out the big lens and see what happens. Okay, here we are. So the problem with these super long lenses is the focusing distance is really far. So this lens is roughly 40 years old. The minimum focusing distance on it is about 18 feet. So I have the macro tubes on it to help bring us closer. I think the closest I can get is about 7 or 8 feet. I think I'm just kind of sitting at the cusp of that where I am right now, but I think it'll be a very interesting shot. This is an off-the-wall thing to do, especially hauling this lens on this rickety little tripod up here. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, from this shot, you can actually see how impractical this setup is. I typically use a large video tripod with a fluid head, but it won't work on ground like this. So I needed to use my photography tripod, which is a rickety thing that I shouldn't trust with this job, but I'll say a prayer and then go up and stage this mushroom. Okay, so camera setup. It definitely makes for a bit of a unique shot, although this is not a kind of shot that'll probably go. This shot probably won't go anywhere other than my computer, maybe post it to Facebook or Instagram. It's not going to be, this is an award-winning shot by any means. So, but, so we're going to go down here. You have to excuse the shakiness. I'm actually walking down this hill backwards. And, okay, so this is what we're looking at right now. framing needs to be adjusted a little bit. The green in the corner is a fern that's about 2 feet in front of the mushroom. And then around the base of the mushroom, there are some pine needles that need to be cleaned up a little bit. I need to dress the set for this particular mushroom. And yeah, and then we'll get to photographing it. Alrighty, it's staged. Alright, so I'm going to make a decision between a vertical or horizontal shot here. And I'm going to take both, obviously, because I'm here. It only makes sense. So that's our shot, more or less. Lighting on this one is basically going to stay what it is. I'm not going to hit it with anything else. Maybe. We'll see. But most likely it's just going to stay natural. I'm already feeling a little bit... I don't want to ruin this bank. This is a very fragile moss-covered bank, and I don't want to leave too much of my footprints here ripping the moss off the rocks. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. So, I've got the shot. I'm gonna get all this stuff out of here and basically just go back along and scatter debris over all of my tracks just to bring it back to as normal as possible. I don't like leaving signs of my big old clumsy feet while I'm doing this, so on to the next one. So my goal with this shot is I want to get a straight down image of this cluster of puffballs, but using the focus stacking, I want to make all of them appear like it's almost perfectly flat. So basically I just want it to be a sea of rich texture and this sort of creamy color. I'm not sure how it's going to work. I've never tried something like this, but with the 14mm extension tube, it gives me, my depth of focus is about 5 centimeters, so that's easily enough to take the entire depth of the mushroom in focus. So we'll see how it goes. Dressing this is very challenging because there's dirt everywhere. Overexposed. All right, I think that turned out pretty well. This shot it's obviously still entirely about the mushrooms, but this is more of a fine art shot from my point of view, just because it's not the kind of thing that you would ever see in, a guide or something like that. You're never going to see this kind of shot in an information packet of some kind. When I get the Audubon Society's Field Guide to Mushrooms, when you look at puffball, you don't see this, but it's such a unique shot because I've never seen almost a nearly solid sheet of puffballs that it makes for a really interesting shot. So you're going to see it now-ish, but I'm excited because I have no idea what it's going to look like with all these layers. I think there's about 35 shots in this composition, so when they're all focus stacked together, it's going to be really interesting to see. In this shot, in case anybody's wondering, 1/13 of a second, ISO 250, and it looks like it's roughly f7 aperture. So, yeah, on to the next one. Well, we're here. Just finished up the last mushroom. Today was an extremely productive day. I don't think I've seen this many mushrooms with this many different varieties in such a small area. Every single picture taken in this video was taken within less than 100 square meters easily. Maybe 5 meter strip, 20 meters long. So, 100 square meters. But yeah, I'm amazed. So you'll be seeing these before I have seen them finished. But from what I've seen, I think a few of these are going to be really good. It's always a bit of a pain with doing these kinds of images because the process for editing them is much different and a lot more time consuming when you're having to edit and do your color grading and most of your sharpening in Lightroom, applying it to a whole series of images, opening it as layers in Photoshop, aligning, stacking, then doing your edit, flattening, doing your edit, and then outputting it. So when you're looking at maybe 30 minutes of work for every picture that pops up on the screen just in editing, not in shooting it, it means that the duds you get can be kind of painful. There's something in there that you just didn't see. I've taken pictures, like what I thought were beautiful macro shots, and then realized there was like the edge of a Tim Hortons cup in it and stuff like that. So, but today's been a really good day. Looking forward to seeing these. And yeah, thank you very much for coming along on this journey with me. If you made it this far, I have no idea how long this video is going to be, or even how many minutes I've recorded for, but yeah, thank you for coming along. And the seasons are turning, but I'm hoping to get in a couple more photography excursions before the snow flies. So enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow.